President-elect Biden has really put a focus on developing a lot of renewables very quickly. Over the campaign, he promised $2 trillion over 4 years in renewable infrastructure spending. But a Biden White House is going to also face significant pressure from the greener parts of his party to undo a lot of the environmental deregulation President Trump's administration is undertaking. Specifically, I'm thinking about efforts to bolster NEPA as well as the Clean Water Act. In the Clean Water Act, I suspect President-elect Biden will face significant calls to strengthen the definition of navigable water or water of the United States, as well as empower states and state regulatory agencies to be involved in the permitting process through Section 401 of the Clean Water Act. So what's going to be really interesting is how will Biden navigate his dual goals of enhancing environmental protections while also promoting these renewable developments that President Trump's streamlining might actually make easier for him to do.
You mentioned energy transition renewables. Where does the Biden administration stand on natural gas?
It's clear the Biden administration would like to transition away from fossil fuels. That has been made abundantly clear. But one area that I'm really interested to see is what will a President Biden do to support these local natural gas bans and energy efficiency building efforts?
Obviously, his energy transition focus is part of his broader pledge to address climate change and emissions. What does that mean for utilities and other folks that have to navigate those emission issues?
That's exactly right. I think this emissions conversation is a real great example of the kind of legal and regulatory uncertainty we're talking about here today. We're now more than 13 years after the Supreme Court said that EPA has greenhouse gas emissions authority. We're 4 years after the Supreme Court stayed the Obama administration's Clean Power Plan. And today, the Trump administration is defending their Clean Power Plan replacement, the Affordable Clean Energy Rule, in courts. So we know that that might not really matter, though, because a Biden EPA will likely replace the Affordable Clean Energy Rule with a rule that's even more stringent than the Clean Power Plan. I think it's likely that we can expect another court case dealing with greenhouse gas emissions in the EPA in a few years.
Another part of the Biden campaign agenda was to address environmental justice as part of this. That's going to bring scrutiny not just on some of those emission issues, but also into the chemical industry. What do you see happening, particularly at EPA?
President-elect Biden made it clear that he's very interested in the effect some of these facilities have on fence line environmental justice communities. I think if we look at the transition, there's some indicators that's going to continue into a President Biden EPA. If you look at the Biden EPA transition team, they've just named an environmental attorney at Earth Justice as the leader, and that group is currently suing the EPA over the Trump administration's miscellaneous organic compound manufacturing rule. I think that kind of shows the trend that EPA might head under a Biden administration. And the other area chemicals are going to face scrutiny is under the Toxic Substances Control Act, or TSCA. I would say the greener parts of President-elect Biden's party are very disappointed with the way the Trump administration has implemented TSCA. And under a Biden administration, I think we can expect some changes to the implementation of TSCA to include more conditions of use and aggregate exposures, as well as requiring more data from companies.
It's also likely to be a source of contention if Biden further pursues a US-EU trade agreement. That's always been a big point of contention on how strictly and what tests we use for chemical regulation versus those in Europe.